Hello everybody, it's Calxiyn here. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to join our Discord server, become patrons over on Patreon, and comment down below with your thoughts. So if you watched the video that we did on Salem and Qrow, you guys would know that I brought up an idea about Wicked and sort of its connection to RWBY, and so we're going to be touching on something that I talked about in here, but we're going to be focusing on whether Ozpin brainwashed Qrow. So this goes back to what we were talking about in Wicked. So to give you guys a summary of that, I don't want to go on too long, but basically what happens in Wicked is that RWBY is trying to rescue RWBY. So the RWBY being Salem and RWBY being Qrow in this context. So basically what she does is that, like, verbatim, the lyrics are, let him never die. So she is casting a spell, so he basically becomes immortal. Let his flesh not be torn, let his blood not be, spilt, stuff like that.
And he becomes
and no, he becomes the Scarecrow, because the Scarecrow doesn't have flesh, and the Scarecrow also doesn't have blood, right?
How convenient.
Yeah, so it's...
God, she's a fuck-up of a wizard.
I know, right? I think, let his bone never break, let his soul never die, let him never die. Like, something like that, right?
But, like,
so,
God forbid if someone, like, lights a cigarette in his vicinity.
Okay, listen, we'll talk about
doomed.
that later. So, we were talking about that, and basically, what she, does is she turns him into the Scarecrow. So, there's a couple implications here. So, one of them is that earlier in the musical, RWBY has a whole song that is like, life is painless when you're brainless, right? And that obviously alludes to the fact that he'll turn into the Scarecrow later, because the Scarecrow is supposed to be brainless, right? Hunter's like, yeah, I get it, Cal, right?
Well, I've also watched The Wizard of Oz. Me and literally every other fucking person.
I know, but this is
continent.
Wicked. And then later, because everybody's spreading sort of lies about RWBY, about Salem, he says, people are so empty-headed, they'll believe anything. And Glinda's like, Fiyero, no! And he runs off, right? So that obviously also has an implication of brainlessness, that everybody else is a brainless follower, a brainless sheep, and, you know, he somehow knows better. He is the one with the brains, right? And so that becomes even more ironic when, again, he turns into the Scarecrow. But obviously, you know, the whole point of the Wizard of Oz was that the Scarecrow wasn't actually stupid. You know what I mean? That the Scarecrow had it in him all along. So here's what I thought would be interesting. What if Qrow was on Salem's side at the beginning, but then instead of Salem turning Qrow into the Scarecrow, it was Ozpin? Because the implication here would be that Ozpin made Qrow brainless or brainwashed. Do you understand what I mean? And so instead of, because the reason why RWBY does it in the musical is to save Fiyero's life, right? And so that's kind of, like, that's her reasoning, right? And so we kind of talked about this in the shipping video, but maybe it could have been possible that, Salem gave Qrow amnesia, and that's why Qrow now follows Ozpin, because he doesn't remember, like, everything that Salem told him about Ozpin, but that was to save his life so Ozpin wouldn't kill him. So that's one. But the more interesting thing is that Qrow was the one who sort of wiped him and made him into a brainless follower, and that's why, like, Salem really wants to see Ozpin burn now, because, you know, they took away the love of her life, quote-unquote, right? And this can also, like, sort of be like, oh, Summer Rose is also like, we can talk about that later. But I really like this idea as a concept, because Al and I did a video a while ago, like, why is Qrow so loyal to Ozpin? And we kind of had a discussion about it. You guys can go watch that video if you want. And we're kind of saying, you know, it could be because, like, he was from the bandits, he was surrounded by people that, like, you know, that killed, basically, and he wants to reform and become a better person, and so now he's sort of going to the extreme of following Ozpin blindly. But considering, like, what Fiyero says in the musical, people are so empty-headed they'll believe anything. For that now to apply to Qrow in a sense, because Qrow is so empty-headed he'll believe anything Ozpin tells him, that's a really, like, interesting narrative twist. And, like, if you guys watched the last video, I kind of explained Miles is really into musicals, so, like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's seen Wicked, you know what I mean? Like, so he could possibly have this racking around in his brain, you know, and I think that it would be super interesting, because I don't want the show to directly copy Wicked, but I think it would be interesting I think it would be interesting as a concept, because this twists even Wicked on its head, right? Instead of RWBY turning Qrow into the Scarecrow, Ozpin turns him into the Scarecrow functionally, because Ozpin, like, is almost scared of Qrow's knowledge, so to speak, and so, you know, he ends up having to brainwash him to get him back on his side, right? Like, using his magic and whatnot. So that would be very different to Wicked. Thank you very much. But yeah, so that was the first thing. Like, did Ozpin brainwash Qrow? And maybe that's why Raven is so sort of hostile and kind of, like, mad about Qrow, or Ozpin using, like, their power, I guess, to turn them into birds and all of that stuff. So it's more so about, the idea that Ozpin used more than just bird magic on them. He also, like, you know, tried to make them compliant in some way, and that while it stuck with Qrow, Raven was somehow able to break the illusion, maybe because she became the Spring Maiden even. That'd be really, I think, interesting, is if Raven was also sort of manipulated in this way, but when she got the Spring Maiden powers, that in itself is magic, and so it almost counteracted Ozpin's spell, so to speak, to make them complicit, to make them brainless. And now you have this thing where Raven sort of remembers everything about Salem and all of the bad stuff that Ozpin has done as well, but now Qrow is still, like, he's not getting any of that magic anytime soon, so Qrow was sort of blinded, and he is, again, the brainless one. I just think this is such an interesting idea, and, like, I'm glad that I thought of it. I know that sounds, like, really conceited, I don't know, but...
A little bit.
But, like, it wasn't something planned, you know what I mean? Like, it's just something that I considered during our shipping video, and so, like, I love organic ideas like that. Like, a lot of people sometimes are like, you guys would probably do better with a script or something like that, but, like, so many things happen in the middle of recording,
yes, please
so to
justify
speak.
never scripting anything.
Anyway, like, the points are in my mind. It doesn't matter, but you know what I mean? So, in a way, like, we would have never gotten this idea if we wrote a script for, like, Salem and Qrow or whatever, right? And I don't know, I really enjoy it. And I think the amnesia thing is interesting, too, that Salem, that would make her very, I don't want to say, that would make her very selfless is the word that I'm looking for. Because if she erased Qrow's memory to save his life, like, to try and rescue him because she knew that she couldn't protect him from Ozpin, that's, like, a pretty selfless thing to do if you really love someone. You know what I mean? Like, you're erasing all of their memories, and, like, now they may think you're a horrible person, but it also sort of brings them on your side, so to speak. And so I think, I don't know, I think that's just, I think that's super interesting. I think that's a really cool idea. But I like Ozpin doing it more, because Ozpin could have said, well, I had to do it, like, it was for the good of the world, RWBY, and then, like, you know, Qrow may regain that at some point and not be the Scarecrow anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, in the books, Wicked, there were two Scarecrows. So there was the actual Scarecrow that Dorothy sort of went to, and then Elphaba was so delusioned that she thought the Scarecrow was Fiyero coming to rescue her in disguise. In the musical, they obviously changed that, because that makes Elphaba a little crazy. But that's something else that I'm thinking about, is that, Salem, like, Qrow somehow Qrow somehow reminds Salem of somebody else that she lost in the past, and so she sees, you know, the quote-unquote Scarecrow as Qrow, but Qrow, like, really had nothing to do with her, like, he just looks reminiscent of Fiyero, so to speak. Right, and I think that's also an interesting idea, but that didn't carry over to the musical, that was only in the books. Like, the idea was that Elphaba was so heartbroken and delusioned, she was like, Fiyero was coming to rescue me, he's in disguise, and so she sent out, ironically, a group of birds to peck out the Scarecrow until he was nothing but straw, and so, that's just sort of what happened, and, you know, there was no Fiyero in there, and so that could be
it's just one
something
of the
for the
natural
future.
stages of a breakup, with the bird picking
Well, they didn't break up, is that okay, so in the book, the Wizards' special forces assassinate Fiyero because he's king of a very, like, important political country, and they know that he's helping Elphaba. So it's like, it'd be like if like, the United States assassinated the Prime Minister. Or something like that.
Yeah, because
like,
Justin Trudeau is really a threat to U.S. national security.
You know what I mean, like, it's just,
He's
whatever.
too handsome! We can't have it!
You know what I mean,
You see our guy, he looks like a fucking toadstool.
It was basically the same thing. So, what do you guys think of this? Do you guys, like, want something like this to happen? Do you think it would be cool? Do you guys think I talk about Wicked too much? Like, this is the same time that I talked about Wicked last year, actually, as I did a bunch of Wicked videos with Al. regarding Qrow and the Scarecrow and everything. And I don't think that I went over, I don't think I did the same thing twice or anything. But like, it's sort of like it's Wicked season, guys. It's Wicked season, you know what I mean? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to join our Discord server, become patrons over on Patreon, and comment down below with your thoughts, and we'll see you later. Bye, guys!